Hey, hello, everybody. This is Tony Alvarez from Keller Williams Hoover. And once again, we're here this week with my good friend, Andy Gagliano from Gagliano Mortgage. Andy, how you doing today?
Hey, Tony, I'm well. How about yourself?
So far, so good. Enjoying the weather today. Yesterday was super amazingly hot to the point that I have to put the air conditioning in my house.
There you go. It's summer in Alabama. I don't know what else we can say. It's just going to be hot and it's going to be humid.
You never know. You never know. But we must enjoy it. Andy,
True.
a couple things that we want to talk today.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm most interested in talk about it is about the NAR settlement that was going on and how that can affect or if it's going to have any effect on the mortgage side.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I am not an attorney. Andy, you are not an attorney either. And this is our personal opinions of what's going on with the NAR settlement. This is not coming from our companies or anything like that. It's mostly personal, the way we see it and the way we understand it. So,
Yeah.
with that said, Andy, also I want to ask you, interest rate. What's going on with the interest rate in the last week or so?
Yeah. I tell you what, I can tackle the second one first because it's pretty easy. We went through a period of about 2 to 3 weeks where rates actually declined. And so that was a good thing. The rates had previously had gone up to levels we hadn't seen in a while, about 6 to 9 months. And so since then, the rates have come back down. They're well within the range of where we've been for the last year or so. And, you know, I would say since they started coming down, they've kind of leveled out and we're holding steady and I'm going to give a rate range. Obviously, these interest rates vary a great deal depending on people's credit scores, how much down payment they want to put, the loan program they go with, just all sorts of different factors. So it's very hard to give a specific rate in something like this. But the rates range anywhere right now from 7% to say 8%, just depending on what it is that someone wants to do and what their credit scores are. If they want to pay a little bit of an origination fee or a discount point to get that rate lower, then they can get rates down into the mid sixes. So, the
So we still have those
feel good.
options out there.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
All
And we
those
still,
options.
like they tell everybody, uh, you know, the famous question, when is the right time to buy a house? I always tell them yesterday,
That's true.
a year ago,
That is true.
2 years ago. So it's always like that. Don't pay attention. I mean, you have to pay attention to it, but don't just focus on the interest rate. There is other factors that can help you. And if you can make the mortgage payment, then go ahead. Let's get the house.
Right.
Now, let's get into business, Andy.
Okay.
Now settlement. We're not gonna get into details deep into it and try to save the world this time.
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna try to see it from both perspectives, especially from the mortgage. And we discussed about it a couple of weeks ago. We took something that it comes together with what's going on with the NAR settlement. The NAR settlement basically is saying that if the sellers are not obligated to pay a commission to the buyer's agent. From my point of view, it never been like that. It's coming from the seller procedures, yes, but it's usually if you're the listing agents, you charge 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, whatever percentage you charge for the sale of that property. Usually, what happened is if I charge you, let's say 10%, then I'm gonna share out of that 10%, 5% of that, half of it, with the buyer's agent. That's being traditional. So We've been getting all this information from the social media and from the news, and you know how it goes.
Yes.
Especially with those, and also with realtors that not, I don't want to call them realtors. I think real estate agents, because it's a difference. They're not educated. Just listen to the news and repeat everything like parrots and panicking, and they don't get deep into what's going on or not. So one of the changes that's going to happen is that buyers, this is what the media is saying, buyers now are going to pay commission. Yes and no. That is not completely true. The commission is not going away. There is a lot of ways that things can be done. What it is now, if you are a buyer, you have to sign a buyer's agreement with a realtor in order for you to see a house that is being advertised on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service nationwide. Realtors use that. And you're going to have to sign a buyer's agreement. If you don't sign a buyer's agreement, we're not going to show you a house, because that's what is coming in place, the new law requirements for us. So we're not going to be breaking that. We're not going to get in trouble on that. And also, on that buyer's agreement, it shows how much you're going to pay, either in percentage or the dollar amount, to your agent in case the seller doesn't pay that part of the commission. All right. It's not that you are obligated, at least here in Birmingham, Alabama, the bar, the Birmingham Association of Realtors, the form that we use, the buyer agency that we use, is to specifically give you the dates when that buyer's agreement is valid from. So you can use it just for a weekend, depending if you feel comfortable with your agent, with the person that you're talking to that's going to represent you, or you can use it for a month or 2 months or 3 months. There is a catch over here. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to sign a buyer's agreement for at least a month. There is no law required of that. Some brokerage may be required that if you're going to be working with the buyer as an agent, get it signed for a month or so. But you're not obligated. There is no law that obligate you. So don't fall in the trap, because I'm pretty sure somebody's going to come out with some smart idea to trap the consumer to be with them for a month or so, showing houses. Because in reality, we're spending time and we're spending gas money also. So let's put everything in balance. And then we have the compensation. Now, Andy, from the mortgage perspective, if I'm qualifying for a loan and I barely qualify, and I barely have money for down payment, for closing costs, you name it, all those charges that needs to be paid, home inspection, appraisal, your credit report that some mortgage company charge for that, whatever it is. And I barely got the money for all that and everything. And on top of that, am I going to have to pay my agent as well? There's anything that mortgages are doing right now?
So that's a good question. So the answer would be maybe, but probably not likely. Here's what I expect. I expect that this settlement is going to be a big bunch of nothing in the world of real estate. What I mean by that is I don't expect a whole lot of change to the way things are currently structured. I don't expect that sellers across the board, across the nation, are going to say, I am not paying a buyer's agent commission. I'm just not going to do it. And here's why I think that. Your smart sellers out there know that the number one hurdle for people to buy homes today is a lack of down payment. we hear on the headlines and the news, seems like every single day there's a headline that comes out and it talks about housing affordability is at its all-time low. I am here to tell you that I deal with people every single day who can afford a mortgage payment. But what most of them struggle with is coming up with the money for down payment and closing costs. So if I'm selling a property, I want to overcome that number one objection, that biggest hurdle that any buyer is going to have, and that is coming up with more money, more cash to buy a home. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tell you, as a seller, I would be more than happy to pay a buyer's real estate agent's commission. Also, I would be more than happy to pay a buyer's closing cost because that's allowed as well. So I just don't see that this is going to be a big sweeping change across the real estate industry like we're hearing and reading so much in the news. And, we have to keep things in mind. These people who are writing these articles, did you could you tell I was reeling myself in a little bit from what I really wanted to say? The people who are writing these articles have to come up with something that's eye-catching, something that's controversial to get your eyes, my eyes, and Tony's eyes on their article, which in turn gets our eyes on their website, which in turn gets our eyes on their ads, which in turn means they can generate some more money to keep the lights on. So, in doing that, there's a lot of scare tactics, a lot of scary headlines out there saying, that buyers are gonna have to come up with more money to buy a home. And it's just, I just don't see it happening. I really
Yeah,
don't.
I think they're doing it to scare people, and like you said, just to generate traffic to the websites, to the articles, and everything. And if you pay attention, I will bet that 90% of the people who write those articles and write all those segments on the news or TV, they're not real estate practitioners,
I
and they're not
I
even
agree.
attorneys either. The vast majority are not even attorneys. So it's they making their own interpretation of what's going on, like you said, just to generate traffic for their own benefits.
Yeah.
Now, here's the part that is interesting, because if somebody comes to me and say that they want to go see a house, the first question is going to be that I'm going to ask him is, have you been pre-approved?
Hmm.
All right. That was the question we asked 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, back in the 1900s, like my son liked to say. He sounds like, wow.
Oh,
But
yes, I
that's
remember those days well.
exactly, that was one of the first questions we asked. Are you pre-approved? We're not going to be showing houses without somebody that is not pre-approved, because we really don't know if they're going to buy. And that time that we are wasting, let's call it as it is, that's a waste of time. If I'm going to show you a house, you're not pre-approved, you're not ready to buy, you just want to go see the house, I'm wasting my time. Also, privacy for the sellers and safe for the sellers, because sometimes we don't know who these people is. They're not being
Right.
pre-approved, they're just called out of the blues. We really don't know who these people is, what their real intentions. They really want to buy a house, or they just want to go and check the house and see what's up. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, so with that, and let's say I got somebody pre-approved, and they call me, we sign the buyer's agreement, I'm gonna go show the house, and just happened that the house they like, the seller decides, no, I am not paying buyer's agent commission, contribution, would name it, whatever you name it.
Yeah.
On the mortgage industry, there's programs that help with down payment, the down payment assistance. We talked about it in the past. We still have those programs.
Yes. Those programs are still there. And so here's something that's very important. There's several different types of mortgages that are available to different types of buyers. There are what we call government loans, there are conventional loans, there are jumbo loans. So let's talk about some of those differences in loan programs because they each have different requirements or different guidelines that we have to follow and that buyers have to follow in order to
Correct.
get those mortgages. So let's talk about a conventional loan very quickly. I'm going to say it's the most popular loan type out there. Those are loans that are sold to by the lender, by the bank. They're sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. And now Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, those are two companies, both of them have said if a buyer has to pay their real estate agent's commission, that we will not consider that to be an interested party contribution. Well, that's a big term. What does that mean? An interested party contribution. Well, there are limits as to how much someone who has an interest in the transaction can contribute to make that transaction happen. For example, most buyers for the type of loans that you and I are talking about, we're talking about buyers who are going to put down as little money as they can. They're scraping up every penny to buy this home that they can save, and they're just going to put down as little money as they can. So most buyers, let's say they're going to put down a 3% or a 5% down payment, or maybe they're going to do one of these down payment assistance programs that you just mentioned, and they're going to put nothing down. That's possible. So they're going to put down as little money as possible. And the seller does say, hey, you cannot, or I will not pay your buyer's agent's commission. So you're going to have to pay your buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Well, there are limitations as to how much that seller can pay. And the amount that the seller can pay on those low down payment programs on a conventional loan is 3% of the sales price. So that buyer's real estate agent commission is not going to be counted in that 3% that the seller can pay. So what that means for a buyer is maybe the buyer needs the seller to pay their closing costs
Correct.
up to 3% of the sales price of the home. So if it's a $200,000 home, 3% of that would be $6,000. So Tony writes an offer for you to present to the seller for a $200,000 sales price with the seller paying $6,000 of your closing costs. You're going to get 100% financing from us, and you have to then pay Tony his commission. So at that point in time, or probably prior to that point, you would have negotiated with Tony to know how much commission Tony's going to require to help you facilitate this deal. And so,
Let me stop you right there.
okay.
Yes. And that's part of the buyer's agreement.
Yep.
With anticipation, it says how much you're going to pay for that commission, whether it's a percentage or a fixed dollar amount.
Yeah. Okay. So because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have said, hey, if you have to pay your buyer's real estate agent commission, then that's not going to count as an interested party contribution. That means that it helps you to be able to go in and negotiate with the seller to try to get that seller to pay some of your closing cost. You can also, because of that, go to that seller and say, hey, seller, why don't you pay my real estate agent's commission? And instead of me lowballing your price on your house, you pay my real estate agent's commission so that I don't have to pay it. And so Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are saying this is okay. Now, the same thing with FHA. FHA says the seller can pay your buyer's real estate agent commission It won't count towards that limitation that
Uh-huh.
FHA puts on a seller for their contributions into the transaction. VA today is different. So a VA loan is a loan for our military, our veterans, those who have served, those who are still serving in the military, assuming they meet certain conditions. And a VA loan, what makes them so attractive is they allow 100% financing. However, the VA says in their loan guidelines that a veteran cannot pay their real estate agent's commission. Now, let's explain one thing very quickly here. Because of this settlement, the Veterans Administration understands that this means that a lot of their buyers are going to be handicapped when it comes to making offers on properties because the sellers may not want to pay their buyer's agent's commission.
Yeah.
And so recently the VA came out and they said, hey, we're going to issue a little temporary exception to the guidelines that says that a buyer can pay their own real estate agent's commission, that the seller does not have to pay it. Now, what I mean by temporary is this. It literally is almost like an act of Congress to get guidelines on a VA loan changed. It takes a long time to get done.
Yeah.
The VA knows this. Tony knows this. I know this. Almost everyone in the business knows that this is the case. So the VA has said, we will very soon be publishing an exception. And when we do, that will become the new guideline until we can get the guidelines permanently changed. So today, June the 10th, a buyer who's getting a VA loan cannot pay their real estate agent's commission. But tomorrow, June the 11th, or because we don't know the exact date, June 30th, they should be able to pay their own real estate commission at that point in time. So that's going to help put VA buyers on an even playing field, a level playing field with all other buyers. So,
which is a great thing. We need to help our veterans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, that's something that's very important because if we run across a seller who will not pay a buyer's real estate agent's commission, we need to know that that buyer's agent can get paid by the buyer and that it won't count against funds that can go towards helping the transaction get closed. So again, you and I can talk about this all day long. Really and truly, I don't see much changing. And here is the number one reason why I don't see a whole lot changing. And I would like your opinion. You tell me if you think I'm wrong about this. I don't see things changing in the real estate world very drastically for a long period of time because, Tony, you represent buyers in real estate transactions.
Correct.
But who else do you represent in a real estate transaction? A seller.
The seller. Uh-huh.
So because you are also representing buyers and you're representing sellers, when you go and you meet with a seller to talk to them about listing their home for sale, what is your recommendation going to be to that seller when it comes time to talk about real estate commissions?
Well, my recommendation is going to be to pay buyer's agent compensation.
So because of that, in the long run, I don't see that there's really going to be a difference. Now, initially, there's going to be some sellers out there who are going to be all cocky and they're going to bow their chest up and they're going to say, well, I'm not paying a buyer's real estate agent commission. That's just a waste of my money and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. but a true real estate professional like Tony and like a lot of the real estate agents who are out there right now are going to look that seller in the eye and they're going to say, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, you really do need to pay this buyer's real estate agent commission, because if you don't, there are going to be some real estate agents out there today who are not going to actively try to sell your home. And if you want your house sold for as much as you can get and as quickly as you can get it sold, then you need to be considering paying that buyer's real estate agent.
That's correct, and that's part
transaction.
of the that I tell some of my clients when they're selling their properties, and that's the question I ask, and that's part of my recommendation. Now, here's the thing also, that we as an agent, and I like the way you put it, we're not going to be, there will be some agents that will not make an effort to show a property where there is not compensation for them, especially if they have a buyer that doesn't have enough money to pay the compensation. So the problem now is not going to be, can I make the monthly payment of the house? Now we're going to get into, can I pay for the initial transaction? Can I pay for the closing costs? Can I pay a bigger down payment? Can I pay for the commission?
Right.
So it's going to be a lot of variables, that's going to be happening. A real estate professional will always show a home regardless. And it should be. And we can always, negotiate everything. That's why we need an important communication with people like Andy, with your mortgage lender, communication all the time to know where we're standing, where we are with this buyer, what we can do to provide a better service and help them better. And
Right.
that's the way I see it. I agree with you 100% on that. I think a lot of people is scared, especially agents, because they don't understand exactly what's going on. I've been talking to some agents that have been in the business for like 15, 20 years, and they're like, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
We've been through this before.
Yeah. Here's one thing that I know, and I will swear that this is fact. If someone has a very difficult problem to solve, if they give that problem to realtors and or mortgage people, it will get solved.
Yeah.
We're very, as a whole, we are very creative and very ingenious people who can come up with solutions to problems. And this could have been a problem.
Yeah.
But it's going to end up being a non-factor. And that's really what it's going to be. And the worst part of it to me, Tony, is just what we talked about early on, that the press has picked up on this. And I think they've put a lot of fear and a lot of misinformation into buyers' minds, thinking that that buyer is now going to have a down payment. They're going to have money for closing costs, and they're going to have money for their real estate agent's commission. And so what I think is happening is a lot of buyers are taking a step back right now because
Exactly.
they're unsure of what's going to be happening. And because they're taking a step back, they're pulling out of the real estate market, and they really are missing a fantastic time to be getting into real estate, to own real estate, to build wealth, create wealth for their family. And anyone who's scared, who's watching this video, who's afraid that it's going to cost them more money now to buy a home than it would have a year ago, I'm just going to say this: reach out to Tony and get facts. Tony probably is going to tell you, first of all, the settlement's not even in effect. Nothing's changing between now and some point later in the year. But secondly, he's going to tell you the facts of what's going on, what the reality is with this settlement, and get you to where you're comfortable moving forward. And that's where you need to be as a buyer.
And your dad, you got right. The media, the news is being providing a lot of fear. Uh, and a lot of buyers decide to not get into the market, not going
Yeah.
to buy because they're confused. They don't know who they're going to believe. They're going to believe the realtor who's telling them facts the way it is, or the media, people that is not in the industry. They're not practitioners. Many of us here in Birmingham, there's a lot of brokerage that are taking the initiative to teach and show their agents what's going on, what could happen, and what the solutions can be. I'll see it like you see it, Andy. And I really don't think it's something to worry about it so much. Because in reality, this is like going back to the
Yeah.
time. We closing the cycle. Like when the internet came and back in the day, we used to look in the real estate to magazines, the book, and we call the people there. And that's how it was. And then the internet came, the MLS came, a lot of .com websites came, and everybody was like, "This is the end of the real estate agent. That's it.
Yeah.
No more agents." Here we are, people. 24 years later, when we got the internet, 1998, 1999,
Yeah. That's
and we,
about right.
and we start seeing, all these websites about properties and everything around 2000, 2001. So 24 years later, we still here as agents,
Yeah.
and we're still gonna need the agent because there is a lot of things going on the transaction, a lot of factors going on the transaction that we solve problem that sometimes the clients don't see it. They don't even know it happened. They just, we get to the closing table, give them the key, let's take a picture and a smile. But I already aged like 25 years on that transaction.
Oh, well, you hide it well.
And I'm having one right now, and we're gonna discuss about that one later in some of the chapters later. Uh, it's gonna be interesting. I don't want to say anything right now. I just gonna wait till the thing happen and the whole thing is over. Then we're gonna talk about it. It's gonna be very, very interesting. But Andy, anything else you want to say about this?
I don't, I think we've covered it all as far as the high points that we really need to hit on. And, I will close with this. There's a very wise investor that a lot of people follow, and he says, sell when everyone is buying and buy when everyone is selling. And so right now, a lot of buyers have pulled out of the market. And I think if you're going to be a wise investor and you're going to make a smart financial move for you and your family to build wealth for your future and build a legacy for your family, you need to buy when there's not many people buying. And that's right now.
Yeah,
So
and that particular guy has made millions and millions of dollars.
billions of
I,
dollars.
I
Yes.
know who you're talking about. I know.
Yes.
And, I like that you mentioned that buy when it's time to buy, sell when it's time to sell. We're gonna talk next week about still interest rate because this change and everything. But also, we're gonna talk about how the market is doing here in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
If we have more inventory or not, are the prices are going up or not, and what really is going on in Birmingham, Alabama. So we're going to have a great show prepared for you guys next week. So Andy, as usual, thank you for being with us today.
Thank
And
you.
if people need to get a mortgage to buy their home, how can they reach you?
I can be reached at 205 979 4412, extension 1. How about you, Tony?
Well, my name is Tony Alvarez from Keller Williams Hoover. I'm your realtor here in Birmingham, Alabama, and you can call me in 205 370 3248. You can call Andy, you can call me. We're going to be more than happy to guys help you achieve your home ownership dream. One way or another, it can happen today, it can happen tomorrow, it can happen in 6 months or a year, but make no mistake about it. We're going to guide you and we're going to help you. So, Andy, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, sir. See you next
Okay.
week.